So hello everyone and welcome. My name is Terrence Shefflin and I'm a director here at Dundas Data Visualization in the R&D department. I'm the director of UI and UX, which ironically is not what I'm talking about at all today. So instead, I'm going to talk about how Dundas BI can connect and deal with big data sources because I think it's cool and I think our product Dundas BI brings a lot of value to it. So we're going to spend most of our time today within the application using different use cases to show big data visual analytics and how it works with some other sources as well. So we're going to leave time for questions, but if you have any, you can always just type them into the GoToWebinar questions panel as you think of them, and I'll answer all of them today or in a follow-up email after the webinar. Additionally, I should mention this webinar, like all of our webinars, is recorded, so you'll get access to the recording afterwards as well. So let's get going. All right, so this is the big data 4Vs reminder. So when people talk about big data, they often refer to the 4Vs describing their data: volume, variety, veracity, and velocity. And when thinking of big data analytics, there are different solutions such as Hadoop, Spark, columnar databases, NoSQL, and a bunch of others that are geared to handle those different Vs. But what about the fifth V? The fifth V is visualization. So big data analytics are definitely not complete and certainly not easy to do and share without visualizations as well. So visualizing your big data sources can allow users to gain insight and come up with new ideas and hypotheses about what the data actually means, as well as collaborate with other users and share their insights with other people as well. So in today's webinar, I'll focus mostly on how Dundas BI can handle large volumes of data with great velocity through our awesome UI that I'm not biased at all about. All right, so Dundas, who are we? So before we go into the product, I want to talk a little bit about who we are for those who are new to Dundas. Maybe you haven't heard of us before. So we've been in the data visualization and BI space for over 20 years. We were founded in 1992 in Toronto, Canada, where our headquarters is today. And we started with components for developers. So we made components and we wanted to empower those developers to make custom BI solutions. And now we have a full end-to-end BI and analytics platform called Dundas BI. So we've come a long way over the years, but our motto throughout this entire time has always been the same. We want to make 80% of use cases easy and all the rest possible. So Dundas BI, this is kind of like a picture trying to explain what Dundas BI is, but basically we cater to different users' abilities and needs. So it's all BI under one roof with easy to use and powerful visualizations. So our product is all HTML5 based, which means you can design and view with just a browser. You don't need a plugin, ActiveX, Flash. You don't need anything like that. You just need a browser, and you can both design, which is important, create, as well as view anything that's created within just that browser. So we can deploy on premises, on Azure, AWS, or anywhere else. It's no problem. By default, all of our data is real-time queried using this real-time engine that we have here. So this is important to note, especially for big data sources, because often the amount of data in there doesn't really lend well to storing it in some sort of model within the application itself. Many of the competitor vendors, they'll force you to put it into a model, and that doesn't really work well with big data volumes. So the reason we're able to leverage our real-time data engine and use it with big data is because we use simplification and paging, as well as some other very smart optimizations to make it very fast. Now, if you do want to use in-memory or warehousing, we do also have a proprietary in-memory engine if your source database is not fast enough, or warehousing options if you need them. More importantly, you can combine all of these different models on a single visualization, on a single dashboard, single report, whatever you want. It can all be mixed together. It all operates the same way, and it's all used the same way. We call it being data agnostic, but it's very important to know because there's no limitations. You just use it all together. So our platform allows both IT professionals and BI analysts to use it to create content which can be shared and viewed by anybody else that has the rights to do so, that you want to see it. So why do customers choose us? First and foremost, flexibility. We have HTML and CSS customization. We have JavaScript APIs, REST APIs, C# APIs, full plugin architecture. You can change whatever you want, and this is very important to many of our customers, if not all of them. our data visualizations are some of the best innovative and interactive visualizations in the market. And why? Because that's where our roots are. That's where we started. We've been making charts for 20 years. We know what we're doing, so they're very good. We're enterprise ready, which means we have governance, auditing, authentication, and authorization integration, single sign-on, and a lot more. We're a trusted partner, and we have the best support in the business. You can ask any of our customers or look at our online reviews. They'll say the same thing. So best-in-class embedded BI. This is really where we shine, and I don't know, maybe I focus on that more as a developer myself, but because we started as a development company, our integration is second to none. You can embed our application into your application, your enterprise application or your website, and nobody's ever going to know it's our product. You can use single sign-on, authentication, and authorization, and nobody will ever see our login. It just looks like part of your product. It's fully integrated. Nobody's going to know. We also fully support software as a service with multi-tenancy. So that's fully supported, no problem. And this is all out of the box too. It's all there for you. So this is kind of our overview of our flexible Dundas BI end-to-end platform. Suffice to say, we're trying to show that we cover end-to-end from data preparation, analytics, to presentation, collaboration, and governance. So now I'm going to go ahead, because I think that's enough talking. We're going to jump into the demo, and I'm going to show you a bit of our product to show you how it works with big data. All right, so let's open up Chrome. So I've got Chrome here. It's just a regular Chrome instance, and it's just showing our login page. So I'm going to go ahead and log in using my Windows credentials. So there we go. I've logged into this instance and I've got some test data and stuff in there. But the first thing I'd like to do is go ahead and connect to my big data source. So I'm going to click Connect to Data, and I'm going to go through this list here. So we've got Amazon Redshift as one of our big data providers. We have Google BigQuery. We also support HP Vertica and Hadoop through Hive or other ODBC drivers. In this case, I'm going to use Google BigQuery for this demo today. So I'm going to give it a name, my big data connector maybe. And then you have to provide some other information. And we have this article here on our support site talking about how to set up Google BigQuery to be able to use it within Dundas BI. And it's basically the same steps if you've ever connected to it with any other product. So it's all outlined here, and they're easy to follow. So when you follow the steps, you end up getting an email, which I'm going to paste in here. You get something called a P12 key. So that's what I have here. And then you have to type in a password, which by default is just not a secret. And then you have to select a project, which we go ahead and list for you automatically. And then you can add any other projects you like. So in this case, I'm going to add the public data project. So that's it. So I'm going to connect to that. And now I'm going to go ahead and start exploring that. So I'm going to click on this Explore Data button. So here, this is what we call our metric set designer, and basically it's a way to start interacting with a single visualization and working with your data. So if I go ahead and expand my data connectors, I can see that big data connector I just created, and when I expand that, I see a bunch of public data tables. So today we're going to focus in on the natality table, and basically this is all United States births registered in the 50 states, the District of Columbia, New York City, from 1969 to 2008, I believe. So it has a lot of data in it, a lot of records. So we're going to be using this. So when I expand it here, you can see all the columns within this table, all the things they provide. So what I'm going to start out with here is probably the father's age. So when I hover over that, this is kind of cool. We basically pull the descriptions from Google Analytics. Big data. So in big data or any SQL table, you can put descriptions on your columns, and you can see here they've put that it's the age of the father when the child was born, and it's an integer. So because it's an integer, our application decides to treat it like a measure where you'd sum it up or average it or something like this. But in this case, I actually want them as rows. I want one row for each father's age. So what I can do is I can right click it and I can select change category, and I can choose hierarchy or dimension, which is basically saying I want one row for each age. So I'm going to choose that, and that's it. Now you can see it's orange, which in our application means we're going to treat it like a hierarchy, and I can go ahead and drag that on. So when I drag it on, we issue a live query to Google BigQuery. So that was a live query. There's no magic or anything like that. We issue a query to BigQuery, and BigQuery responds with the ages. So in this case, I've got all the ages, and this is weird because there's like some 9-year-old fathers, which is kind of messed up. The first thing I'd probably like to know when I see this kind of data is how many are there. So there's no count or something like that on here, but Dundas BI automatically provides some different calculated measures. So if we go here to measures, I can say click to add, and at the bottom of the list we have some what we call calculated elements. So these are elements that we can calculate, so we can add the count. Now when I say we calculate them, we actually do something pretty special here, and we're able to push a lot of these calculated or calculations to the provider. So in this case, it's actually BigQuery calculating the count for us, and there's many other things it can do. And this way, we don't need to pull in all of that data. So this is one way that we deal very well with large quantities of data. We're able to leverage the provider being used in order to make these kind of calculations for us. So once again, this is live data and a live connection. So we've got the count. So there was only 2 9-year-old fathers, which I suppose makes me feel a little bit better. And the total was 137 million. So there was 137 million, or almost 138 million records that we're going through. So I've got the count here and by father's age, and now I can go ahead and start doing whatever I want. So I can click revisualize, for example, and maybe I want to revisualize it as a bar. So once again, it's a live query issued, and our bar chart came up reasonably fast. You can see there's a scroll bar at the bottom because it's paging. So paging is very important for us. We only get the data that you see on the screen at one time to, again, help make it faster. But if you want to see all the data, you certainly can. There's a zoom out button. So if I click that, what happens is for the chart, we actually run simplification as well as paging. So in this case, we're performing simplification algorithms on top of the data to further reduce the amount of data we need to parse and bring back to the client. So I've got it here, and you can see it kind of, the father's age seems to max out around age 28 for the maximum number of children born, and then it kind of goes down until you get way down here to age 99. So what is going on? There's like 19 million babies born to 99-year-old fathers. That's what's going on here. So actually, this is actually the default, I believe. So when they don't know the father's age, or when they put it in and are too lazy to change it, this is kind of what you end up with. So this isn't helping us at all. So let's go ahead and remove it. So to remove it, there's a filter button on any measure or hierarchy. So you can just click that. And then if you open the filter, we get all the available options. So I'm going to search for 99, and I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to say, you know what? I want to invert it. So give me everything except that. So when I click OK, it goes ahead and does exactly that. So now I've got what I want. And we can see that data is there. But let's go ahead and add maybe something. Actually, before I do that, I'd like to point out that another really cool thing, and this was new in version 3, is that you can actually, at this point or any point, you can select any data points by just dragging your finger or the mouse, and you can see instantly statistics, the sum, the average, the minimum, the maximum, and the count. So even with Google BigQuery and with this huge amount of records, it's no problem for us to do these kind of statistics and stuff like that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add the weight of the child when born in pounds as well, just for some additional information. So I'm going to add that. So now we've got here we've got the count and compare it against the weight, and you can see the weight kind of caps out around here about 54 million pounds. What is going on? So what's happening here is that the amount when we add a measure is actually by default summed up, because normally you want the sum of a measure. So obviously babies don't actually weigh 55 million pounds. That would be crazy. So we can actually click on the measure, and you can see the aggregator by default is set to sum, which in this case we don't want. So we're going to change it to average. We're going to click OK. So again, we're issuing a live query, and we've asked Google BigQuery to do the average for us, which is why it's so fast. So it did that for us, and now it looks like it's gone. It's not, but the scale is so different it's hard to see. So that's an easy fix. We simply click on Series 2, and we say, you know what, for the vertical axis, give me a new right axis. So that's it. There it is. And I can, for example, right click on it and say, you know what, give me a line instead for comparison. So we've kind of made our first visualization here, and I can rename it maybe to child weight by father's age. So I've renamed it, and then there's this button up here at the top called Add to New Dashboard. So I'm going to click that. So this brings us to a new dashboard, and it adds the visualization I was just working with to this dashboard for me to use. So now I've got the first one from Google BigQuery. So let's go ahead and add some more visualizations to this dashboard. So once again, I'm going to use the same Google BigQuery data connector that you saw me create. I'm going to use the natality table again. And this time I'm going to look at this column called child race. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to change this to a hierarchy instead of a measure. And I'm going to drag it on. So here we can see the child race, but you'll notice it's just a bunch of different numbers and the unknown, but it's just a bunch of different numbers. And this doesn't mean much to me, but once again, if we hover over here, you can see that Google put in the description, the legend basically, of what these numbers mean. So what I did is I went ahead and made up an Excel file that has that data that I could join with. So I'm going to just drag it in. So this is my Excel file here. I'm going to drop it. I just dragged it in from off screen. So here you can see I've created a simple Excel file with child, race, number, and then the race of the name of the race. So I can, of course, just join these right away by going in here and going to this new Excel file I brought in and dragging it. But it would be nice if other people didn't have to do this and didn't have to have that Excel file handy every time they wanted to work with that data. So what I did ahead of time is I created a data cube called child race, and I just added one measure, just the count measure, and I just did a simple join between the two sources. So I'm just going to delete both of these, and instead I'm going to work with the data from here. So I can drag in the count and the race. So now you can see I'm getting the names of the race, and this is because, like I said, we're joining BigQuery with Excel to get this. So now I'm going to add another one called isMale, which is just whether or not they're male, and maybe I'll revisualize this to a pie. So I've got a pie here, and then you can start doing whatever you want. You can right-click and go to sort, maybe sort descending, something like that. Maybe we want to collapse something. We can collapse this and take a look at the data further. So we can start working with it just like any other source of data that we have to do it. So now, you've noticed I've been positioning these just absolutely. So we have a lot of options in Dundas BI to help you position items and snap and align and distribute. But sometimes you may want to go further and use more of what we call a template in order to do responsive design or something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and use an existing template called my template that I created. And then I can just drag these controls in here. So once I do that, I can take advantage of the lot of different layout options available in Dundas BI. For example, I can use our new responsive design mode so that when the items shrink to a certain size, they'll start going vertically instead of horizontally. But in this case, for this specific dashboard, I'm actually going to use resize, and I'm going to ignore the aspect ratio. So I've got two visualizations here, but if you look at the data we were working with in the natality table, this one. So this one actually has state information. You can see it down here. So it has all the states. So another way that we often encourage users to work with data is to share what they found. So maybe somebody's already used this state information somewhere. So maybe I can find it by searching, for example, state map, because I want a map of those states. So you can see here somebody's already created a visualization that I can simply drag on. So right away I get the map, and that's all I had to do. Now, the interesting thing about this map is that they've actually used what we call a dynamic measure, which means that you can allow end users to change what measure is being shown. So to illustrate this, first I'm just going to add a legend to this map. So here's a legend just so we can see what these different colors mean on the square. And then I can click filter, and I can say dynamic element. So when I add this dynamic element filter, basically what it allows is for somebody who's using your dashboard to say, you know what, actually show me the father age instead, or maybe show me the total records instead. You can see the map is changing to do that. So this is a way to provide a much more controlled analytics experience for the users of your dashboard. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to remove this. So now let's add some other data to fill out this dashboard a little bit more. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some data that I have again from Excel. It's called sales by country and time, and this is sales of birth control pills over time. So we can go ahead and drag on, for example, sales amount, and then we can drag on date. And you'll notice here, we've talked about this a lot, but in previous webinars, but basically the dates from Excel are always by day, which often is not what you want. So Dundas BI can auto aggregate to any sort of time dimension. So if I just replace it with year, we aggregate it up automatically. So I want to work with this more, but it's a little bit small down here. So at the top, I have data tools, which I can always click, and there's an option called edit full screen. So when I click that, it'll bring me back to this full screen editor to allow me to work with it a little bit easier. So now I can work with it just like any other data source. I can revisualize it to a pie or I don't know, a bubble or something, whatever you want. And maybe a bar probably works best in this case. Since we have dates, we can go ahead and add a trend line. So in version 3, basically you can just click revisualize, and then down here there's this add trend line option that I can just click. So it adds a trend line, and we can see, yep, the trend is going up, except in 2012, which is kind of weird. So let's go find out why. So we can actually right click on the point and say drill down. And now we can see, oh, okay, yeah, the reason the trend is going down in 2012 and the reason why the bar wasn't as high is because we've got some missing data here. So that's good to know. So we're going to go back up, and now we're going to bring this visualization using this back to dashboard button at the top. We're going to bring it back to the dashboard we were working with. So here it is, and probably I want other people to know that. So I can actually right click on 2012 and I can say, you know what, I'm going to add a note. So I got this note thing up here. I'm going to say there was some missing data. What is going on or something? I don't know. So I'm going to add this note here. And basically it adds it, and now anybody else can reply or whatever, and we can collaborate about what's going on with that missing data point and find out, maybe get to the bottom of it. So additionally, whenever you're viewing a dashboard, you can always set up notifications. For example, you want to schedule delivery of this notification, or maybe when somebody replies to that note you just created, you want to be notified about it, or if the data changes, you want to be notified. You can always share your work as a link, and if you choose link, you can choose who to give access to, as well as you can share it as an image or a PDF or something else. So there's a lot of options available for users. And as well, when you're designing your dashboard, you can always easily change the colors and stuff like that. We have a lot of styles that are built in. For example, I can go in here. There's a bunch of different categories of styles we ship with, so I can maybe drag in this candy one, or I don't know, chow charts. So you can easily set up themes and styles to help your users sort of create a color scheme that's maybe more appropriate for your company or stuff that you like. So I'm just going to finish this dashboard off a bit. I'm going to add maybe another member filter to this control like this, and I can add a title. So I'm going to say components. I'm going to add a label, and you can always double click the label to change the text, and maybe I'll go in here and change some of the other properties. For example, I can change the font size to be bigger. I can change the font weight to be bold. So now I've quickly created a dashboard that has the ability to change what this map at the bottom is showing. I can filter out this chart at the bottom that has a trend as well. I have a pie chart that I can work with, as well as this visualization here showing the count against the father's age, as well as the weight of the baby. So here, this chart, just as a reminder, was using Google BigQuery. This pie chart is using BigQuery joined with Excel. This is Google BigQuery, and this is Excel. And you can, of course, mix anything else you want on there. You can mix MySQL or Oracle or whatever other data sources you have in there. So as well as this, showing all the different sources, I also want to just show a little bit about our innovation in visualization and how data can be visualized in many different visualizations with endless options, really, for interactivity and stuff. So to do that, basically I'm going to create a new metric set here. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and work with SQL, straight up SQL data. So I'm going to use AdventureWorks, which is kind of a common SQL table that ships with Microsoft. And I'm going to go down to sales order detail. So this table has a lot of data, and it's just in regular SQL. And I'm going to maybe look at order quantity, and I'm going to look at by year, and I'm going to add product ID. So this is a lot of data, and basically what we're showing is for each year, what were all the different products that we sold. So often what you want to see is kind of the relationship. How many products did I show in each year, or how many products did I sell in each year? And it's a little bit hard to see on a table visualization. So one of the new visualizations we have available in version 3, which I'm going to show you now, we can click Revisualize. And at the back here, we have our new relationship diagram. So when I click that, it brings in all the data from SQL, and basically we end up with a nice looking relationship diagram. And we can see right away that, oh yeah, you know what? In 2012, we had 2011, we had the least variety of products sold. And in 2013, we had the most. So we can, immediately see that kind of relationship with this sort of visualization. So that's the end of this part of the demo. So I'm just going to go back to PowerPoint here. So what's next? So basically, we're going to open up the floor to some questions. But if you're interested to know more about version 3 or big data, you can access our documentation or contact your account executive to organize a specific discussion about it. If you're new to Dundas BI, you're welcome to contact our team or me to get a live walkthrough or simply try it out for yourself. We have a free online trial, as well as you can, of course, download our software for an evaluation. So at this point, I'm going to open up the floor to some questions. And if you haven't already asked a question so far and you have one, please use the GoToWebinar questions panel to ask your question.